Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where today's show is Authentic Achievements. And today we're going to take a moment, or actually the whole show, so quite a big moment, to be able to think about the reflections from 2025 and how they shape our future. So unfortunately for all of you, you're stuck with just me today, as our guest was unable to join us. But I still thought this was a topic that is really worth sharing, because we're coming into that season where we start to think about our New Year's resolutions. And I don't know about you, but whenever I make a New Year's resolution, you kind of almost have to take a bet on how long it's going to take for me to break it. And that's because I don't often make them with intention around what I really want. I make them with the intention of what I don't want that's not working for me right now. I don't know if that resonates with anybody. And so this year I've decided to do something different. I actually took some time to pause and reflect and to really think about what has happened in 2025, what worked well, what have I learned, what could have gone better, and then to think really purposefully around when I sit here next year and do the same thing, what do I want to be reflecting on? Have I actually set up an intention for what I'm trying to achieve? What do I want to be proud of next year? What do I want for my little girl, for our family? And how can I therefore make sure that I'm taking intentional steps towards it? So I thought I'd start really with that first reflect on what's happened in 2025. And like many people's years, it's come with its highs and its lows. It's come with the things that have gone really well, or the things that have come out of the blue as a positive surprise. And equally, it's come with its challenges. It's come with its things where you kind of wish they hadn't happened. But as you know from listening with me, I am a big believer in the fact that everything that happens to us is a lesson, a blessing, or both. And so in those moments where I've had those lessons happen, those things that have come along that I perhaps would rather have not had to go through, I've taken the time to intentionally look at, what am I supposed to be learning here? What is this teaching me? What can I take away from this experience that will allow me to no longer hold it in frustration or in fear? And so asking myself those questions has really helped me to redefine some of the more difficult situations that I've had to go through this year. That part that says, what am I going to do differently as a result of having learned this? Is it going to be a different way to approach a conversation? Is it going to be a different way of reviewing a situation to enable me to perhaps not make the same mistake, or to find a faster route to the solution? And when I was reflecting on this with my friends, they were like, you're just a bit unusual, because you will sit there and you will take that time and you will look for where's the positive in this. And I guess my reason for that is, over the years, there's been plenty of opportunities to get dragged down in just what didn't go well, whether that's been illness or relationship breakdowns or the loss of people that I love, there's always opportunities to make us feel like we're not enough, we're not doing it properly, that there are different things that we could be doing differently. And particularly in the current environment where we've got a society that really is the kind of a compare and despair society. We look at the seemingly perfect lives that are displayed on social media, and then we look at the messy reality of our own life and find ourselves sadly lacking. But the truth is, what we see often on these social media platforms isn't the full reality. I don't post any pictures of me when I've got no makeup on and I've been up all night with Scarlett. That's my gift to the world. But those things do happen. We do have those days where you just don't feel your best. And how do we become more honest with it? And so I wanted to kind of reflect on some of my leadership lessons of 2025. And one of my big ones was that as leaders, we've been sold a bit of a dud. We've been told for years that we're supposed to know all of the answers, that heaven forbid we share any vulnerability, or that we are curious, because curious is something for children. It's something that we should put away when we're being adult in the world. And yet it made me really start to think about, why is that? If we think about some of the greatest achievements we've had in our lives, some of the most overwhelming things that we've had to learn and overcome, one of which was learning to walk and talk in the first instance. And you kind of look at that and go, if we had to do that today, we would be overwhelmed. If I woke up in the morning and they said, Kim, you're going to have to learn how to walk again or talk again, I wouldn't know where to start. And all I would see would be the obstacles, because that feels too big. And so it made me think about, why is it then that we can do it when we're at our most vulnerable, when we're so little, and yet we can do these amazing things that today would daunt us? And so I really started looking into that. And I looked into this a few years ago, but it gave me pause this year into how we take that learning into leadership. And one of those things was that in my experience, looking at my little girl and her friends when they were learning to walk, I think it comes down to one thing in two parts, and that's belief. The first thing is, children think they're just like you. My little girl thinks we're twins. I mean, we're the oddest twins since Schwarzenegger and DeVito, but she still thinks we're twins. So when they're growing up, they just want to be like you. And if you can do it, they can do it. And they're not deterred by how many times they fail. They don't use failure as a reason to not try again. They just get up and keep going. It doesn't matter how many times they fall down on that little nappy bottom, they still get back up and give it another try. And that's because they believe in themselves and their ability to be able to get where you can be, because they're just like you. And the second part of the belief is, I've yet to see a child learn to walk that doesn't have at least one adult nearby going, come on, you've got this, you're so close. So we quite literally give them our belief, and therefore they can add that to their own belief, and the two together allow them to be propelled forward. And it made me kind of think back to, when was the last time as leaders that we embraced curiosity? Now, I don't know about any of you listening, but for many, many years, I believed that the phrase was, curiosity killed the cat. Well, let's not be curious then, you're going to die. It's definitely one to be pulled away from. It's definitely not something that should be encouraged. And it wasn't until I was researching my latest book that I came across the actual full phrase. And the full phrase is, curiosity killed the cat and satisfaction brought it back. So whilst the curiosity killed the version of itself that the cat had, the satisfaction in what it learned and how it grew brought back its new version, its next iteration. And that made me reflect on my leadership journey and the things that I've learned over the years, things that I did as a leader 30 years ago that I would be horrified to do today. And that was because of evolving, of being present, of gaining feedback, of listening to people about what landed, what didn't land, of how it felt to be led by me and how it felt to lead as me. And I think often we kind of avoid asking ourselves those questions about feelings, or asking other people those questions about feelings, as if almost feelings are to be dismissed. And yet we know, neuroscientifically proven, that our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. And for me, this year, one of my big breakthroughs has been leaning into that, emotional brain and saying, well, hold on, how's this feeling for me right now? What's coming up for me? What's going on? But also being open to ask those questions of the people that I work with, or my friends, or people that I meet, to just understand, how does it feel? Because we know from great quotes like Maya Angelou's, which is, people will not remember what you said, they will not remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. And so it made me really reflect on, if the most important impact we have on other people is how we made them feel, why don't we spend a little bit more time talking to them about how they feel? How do we spend a little bit more time with ourselves on how we feel? And I guess that took me back to a speech that I did earlier this year. I was very lucky to be part of What a Day at Google. And it was on the future of leadership. And for me, my reflections from the last few years, but particularly in this year and heading into next year and the book, has been that I believe in the ever evolving, digitally advanced world that we are living in and leading in, that actually some of the most important qualities that we need to really dig deep on, that we really need to understand more and be more intentional with, is, the first one is curiosity. And so the question I would ask you to just reflect on, should you want to, it's an invite, not a demand, is, when was the last time you were genuinely curious? Whether that's with your team, whether that's with yourself, whether that's with your family. When was the last time you asked a question that you genuinely didn't know the answer to? And then the next one, I think, is about presence. We're constantly on these days. You're ever scrolling. You've always got something else that's going on in your world that you've got to think about. And so my second invitation to the room was, when was the last time you were genuinely present? When were you present to the situation without your mental to-do list, without scrolling through your phone, without thinking about the emails you've not sent yet or what needs to be done next, and were just really wholly present in the moment, whether that's with somebody else or whether it's with yourself? Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm very often, I'm just as bad at scrolling and ignoring myself as I am doing it when I'm busy with other things. And yet when we get our real breakthroughs, often when we take those moments to be intentionally curious and intentionally present, because when we do it with intention, we really think about it from all of our senses. How did that feel? What did I say? What did they say? How did that go? And what's the takeaway that I'm going to take from that? And so for me, one of the things I've done for this year is reflect on what have been my top learns for 2025. And one of my big learns is just to stop overthinking it, to stop analyzing every potential situation. And then after the effect, analyzing everything that I could have done differently or could have done better or should have done differently. Because what I realize is, all that really does is steal my time. How many of you listening have ever had a difficult conversation that you've got to have and you put it off? And you tell yourself you're putting it off because you're preparing and you just want to make sure that you're doing it properly. And for the time that you put it off, whether that's an hour, a day, a week, a month, that plays in your mind. It's still coming. You're still going to have to steel yourself to have that conversation. And so it takes away some of your joy in all of those moments. And then when you get there and you actually have the conversation, how many times have you gone, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. That went a lot better. For me, that happens a lot. And so I start to reflect on it and go, okay, I actually make the situation significantly worse for myself because I doom loop on this overthinking of what could go wrong, what might not land as well as it could land, what might get in the way. And then when I get there, it never goes as badly as I thought. So why not just trust my gut instinct? Because in all of those occasions, the conversation I've had has been the conversation I knew I needed to have in that first instance. All that overthinking didn't change anything. It didn't even amend the words I choose. All it did was allow me to procrastinate whilst stealing my own joy, whilst making myself feel bad. And you think, well, okay, how's that going to change things for me in the future? Well, I'm still going to be able to have the reflection, did it go as well as I thought? Is there things I could learn that I could have done differently? But actually what I'm going to buy back is all those hours or days, or on occasion weeks, that I have wasted my energy, wasted my time on over analyzing things that were probably never going to happen. I mean, in fact, didn't happen. So they were just a waste. So one of my first things that I've learned from this year and from that reflection is to just do it. Whether that's a positive action you want to take, or whether it's to give, to tackle a situation that needs to be tackled, to just get on with it, because progress beats perfection every time. And I think it's, that for me has really helped change. If I think about how the last 3 months have gone versus how the first 9 months went, getting myself in that position where I was able to really take decisive action, like I would with a client, like I would when I was running big organizations myself. And I realized I wasn't taking my own medicine and I wasn't leading myself with the same level of gravitas, with the same level of determination and intention as I do when I'm working. And I think that was my next lesson, which is we are all leaders of our own life. And therefore, we should put as much effort into being the leader of our life as we do into leading the people that we are entrusted to lead. And when we look at it through that lens, you start to see actions, see things that you wouldn't see if you didn't take that same view with yourself. So I think for me that those lessons were giving myself permission to be human, giving myself permission to actually share that I might not know the answer, being open to somebody else learning. And that was another key reflection for me. For many years, I believed and told everybody that I had made my career out of asking the dumb girl questions, the seemingly unintelligent ones around, well, why do we do this like this? And how do we get to that point? And actually what I now realize, having spent the year writing the book and really distilling all my lessons and having interviewed some amazing people, is what I did was I asked the curious questions, the questions where I didn't know the answer, but I wanted to know the answer because the answer was going to help me learn. And it led me to remember something, I think it was in Napoleon Hill's book, but he talked about when Henry Ford had taken, I think it was the Chicago Tribune, to court for slander, because they'd basically reported that he was an uneducated buffoon of a man. And he took umbrage at this. And when they went to court, they asked impertinent question after impertinent question, all designed to prove their point that he was an uneducated buffoon of a man. And then he suddenly, after one particular question, his response was, in my office, on my desk, I have a big wooden box that has buttons all over it. And at the press of a button, I can summon to my office somebody that can answer any question that I need answering. And at that point, the court realized that that is not the answer of an uneducated man. That's the answer of a quite clever man who's going, why fill my head with knowledge I might not need when I can just surround myself with the people that have got the knowledge, and therefore I can focus on what I need in the moment. And that really gave me some further pause for thought that said, how often do we get ourselves in a place of trying to learn more and more and more things, trying to ensure that we don't get caught out as leaders, that we aren't asked a question that we don't know the answer to? And why is that? Why is that so important that we aren't asked a question that we don't know the answer to? And when I reflected on it, I was like, well, I don't think it is that important. You know, on the occasions where I haven't known the answer to the question, of which there's many, I've known the right question to ask of the right person to get the answer, which means you get the knowledge you need, and you can move forward as an organization. But it also allows you to give your people permission to be part of the solution. And very often we don't ask them their opinion and their advice. We tell them what it is we need them to do. We tell them where it is that we're going to go. But when did we last ask them, you know, what do you think's going well here? What do you think might not be going so well? What is it you think we know that we might not know? Because in all the organizations that I've worked in, probably my favorite question to ask is, what is the daftest thing we make you do? And whenever I've asked that, I've had people go, why do you ask that question? I'm like, because I guarantee your people will be doing something that they think is ridiculous, that they think adds no value, that they don't understand, and they assume you know they're doing it, and they don't. And that's your low-hanging fruit to be able to really drive your organization forward, is understand at every level, what are the things where people go, I don't know why we're doing this. This seems to add no value. Because one, it is silently destroying their culture, their belief in what the organization's doing. Because when you get somebody to do something that feels meaningless and unrewarding, it makes them start to feel a bit meaningless and unrewarding. And that drives such a negative impact in their life and in the lives of the people around them. And it brings me to a documentary that I saw many, many years ago. I think it was back in the 1970s. And it was in a Jaffa cake factory. And this guy's job was, with a piece of metal, was to shove the Jaffa on the center of the sponge. And he was happily doing that all day. And the documentary maker was walking past and he said, my job's really important. And you could see the eye roll. And he went, okay, so talk to me about this. Tell me how your job is really important. And the guy said, well, my job is to get the Jaffa on the center of the sponge. And if you don't get the Jaffa on the center of the sponge, the chocolate doesn't fully cover it. And if the chocolate doesn't fully cover it, then the sell-by date's reduced, which means we can't sell to corner shops because their turnover isn't great enough. So our market opportunity is reduced and our market share is reduced, and we can't achieve the company goals. So even his seemingly mundane, seemingly boring job, because he understood how it fit in to the bigger picture, how it fit into the ultimate of what the business was trying to achieve, and therefore he could see that if he didn't do his bit, they could never achieve their goal, allowed his job to become important rather than mundane. And so one of my reflections has been, how do we make sure that our people all know what their Jaffa cake moment is, all know the part they play in the bigger picture, so that they understand the things that we're asking them to do have a purpose, they have a point. But also, how do we invite them in if there's a better way of doing it? Because we know as we go through organizations, the further away we go from the front line, the further removed we are from the everyday and what's happening for our customers, we can start to think of things through a little bit of rose-tinted glasses. And so for me, as I've come to the end of this year, there have been those big reflections on, have I done that for my team? Have I helped my clients do that for their teams? Are we all much clearer now on what it is we need to do, and how do we ensure it's being done? Because one of the other things that I hear a lot from people that I talk to is the minute you talk about risk and governance, everybody goes, ugh. I mean, it doesn't sound like the fun stuff, does it? We've got risk and governance in place. And yet we know in life, everything comes with risk, but it also comes with a need for us to regulate that, to understand. And some of those risks are positive and some of those risks are negative. But once we're owning them, once we understand them, then we can take mitigating action. We can say, how do we ensure that this thing we don't want to have happen doesn't happen? How do we ensure that this thing that we do want to have happen happens? And that's all about the intentional steps that we take towards it. And the governance piece is holding ourselves and our feet to the fire of, did we do what we said we'd do when we said we'd do it? And if we didn't, why didn't we? And what could we put in place next time to ensure that we do, so that we constantly learn and grow from it? And risk and governance was something that I hadn't realized played such a big part in my life. But as a woman and as a mother, we risk assess constantly. Is it okay for me to walk down this street? Is it okay for the children to do this? Is they going to be safe if we do that? What do I need to consider before we take this action to make sure that we are going to get there safely and we're going to get there on time and with what we want to do? And yet those seemingly small questions that we constantly ask ourselves are our human form of risk assessing and providing ourselves with the confidence that we can move forward. And then I think my final reflection was intentionality. So I realized as I headed into 2025, as I left 2024, it was very much more around looking back and going, well, I want to resolve these things. Even the word resolution tells you you're fixing a problem. And so we come at it with a problem to solve instead of looking at actually, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? What am I putting out into the universe to say, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do. And so as we got to, I kind of probably midway through the year, I started to think about things much more intentionally, much more around actually what do I want the end of the year to look like? What do I want my life to look like? How do I want to show up as a mother, as a friend, as a colleague, as an advisor? And since I did that, things moved so much faster. Since setting that intention of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and therefore using that as almost a barometer when new opportunities or ideas come in, that goes, does this meet what I've said is my intention, or does it distract? That I've been able to achieve so much more than I'd done in the first half of the year in the last few years. So I think for me, having that intentionality is really important. And all of these things factor into how workplace culture has evolved this year. When I went to What a Day, one of the big questions that's on everybody's lips almost, particularly because it was lots of HR people, was, how do we give our employees confidence that their job isn't going to be eroded by the advancements of AI? And how do we make sure that people feel safe and secure in their future career? And I think for me, as I said then, a large part of it is we have to turn up the volume on the humanity in leadership, on helping people understand it's not about it taking your job, it's about enhancing your job. And actually, it's only as good as the inputs that you put in. So all your expertise, all your knowledge, all your experience, when you add that in to AI, it becomes significantly more powerful. And therefore, it allows you to take away some of the more mundane things that aren't you at your best, to free you up, to put all that focus into the bits where you are at your best. And so I think we need to provide an environment and a culture where actually we are giving people permission to be part of the solution. We're openly talking about, how does it feel to do what we're doing? What is it we want to achieve? What are we going to feel like when we get there? because we're seeing an ever increasing amount of people that are suffering with their mental health. And a large part of that is because that emotional brain is responding 24 times faster, but it's got nowhere to go with the overthink that it's got unless we create the culture for people to be able to have a safe space to share what's going on and for us to collectively find a solution that's going to allow us to move through that. And then I think that also brings me to kind of one of my other key learnings, which has been, unfortunately, it aligns with the title of the show, but the importance of authenticity. People, particularly in this ever fast, ever growing environment, are almost desperate for connection. They want to feel connected with something that's authentic, something that's real, because there's so much that is unreal. And so really owning who you are authentically and giving yourself permission to show up as that person, to understand that there are bits of you that you might want to still work on, but that's okay. We're okay to be who we are and continue to evolve and continue to work on it. And for me, that was a big breakthrough because I spent many years desperately trying to be something I wasn't, trying to fit into what I thought was needed from me as a leader, or was needed from me in the jobs that I did. And actually, once I was willing to have the courage to be authentically myself, things got so much better because people were no longer trying to work out what's not real there. Because they do. When you're not being fully who you are, people sense it. And therefore, they spend all of their time being distracted, trying to work out what it is you're hiding. Whereas when you give yourself permission to show up as who you are, then they're no longer looking for the thing you're hiding because you're not hiding it. And I guess for me, when we think about all of these things, the world is an ever uncertain place. And when we are uncertain, that can make a real impact on decision making and growth. And having consulted at this level for coming up for 12 years, the things that I've learned is we have to learn as leaders to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. The one thing guaranteed in life is uncertainty. And all we can do, therefore, is get comfortable with that and make the best decisions we can with the information that we've got available. And then keep reviewing them. Do we have new information now that means we need to change direction slightly? And recognize that every success and every failure is just more data to enable us to make better, more informed decisions as we move forward into an uncertain world. And that can be easy to say and hard to do. But I guess for me, the thing that holds me steady is every single one of us has survived 100% of the shots that life's taken at them so far. That's a pretty good batting average. And that should give us some confidence that if we follow the constant learning, the constant reviewing and the iteration, because if you look at all of the big successes in life, whether it was the finding of a light bulb. You talked, Thomas Edison has a great quote, which is, I didn't find one way to create the light bulb. I found 10,000 ways not to do it. And what he did was he kept iterating. He kept looking what could be different, what could go slightly. It wasn't rip it up and start again. It was constantly reviewing for what are the one or two little levers that we could change, the little levers we could drive. But you take that attitude into your organization, into your culture, and invite everybody else to do it as well. And imagine how much faster you will get there. And I think, so for me, when I'm thinking about how reflection shapes better leadership and better impact, it really is down to that, looking for those iterations, looking for those elements that go, this is doing okay, but are there any parts of it that could go better? Or this isn't going as well as expected, but are there parts of it that are doing really well? And so how do we make sure that we are just in that space of constant iteration? And for me, that kind of pulls us back to where I started today's show, which is around the skills I think we need, not just as leaders, but in life. to turn the volume upon is to be curious. What's going on in my world? What's going on in your world? What's going on in the environment, in the economy, in the world as a whole? Because the more we're curious, and the reason why for me curiosity is so important is when we're curious, we seek information without judgment. We're not seeking to tell you you're wrong and prove that we're right. We're just interested. We want to learn something that we didn't know before. And so I think curiosity is crucial. I think intentionality is crucial, because if we were just curious, we could fall foul of being that toddler that just goes, but why? But why? But why? And I don't think that's the life any of us would really want to live. So being intentional about our curiosity, what is it I want to open my mind to and learn from and see where that takes us? And then being really present. So one of my biggest takeaways from 2025 has been putting in moments of thinking. I was that busy doing and had a to-do list longer than I am tall, and realized that how much of our time do we waste simply doing tasks that actually weren't important in 5 days' time. If we'd not got to them, the world wouldn't have ended. It wasn't that important. And yet we tick them off first because we know we can get them done. And so I started to do a process of, at the end of each day, reflecting on the day and coming up with what were the 3 things, maximum of 3, that needed to be done tomorrow for tomorrow to be a success, whether that was as a business leader, whether that was for the organizations that I was helping, or whether that was as a human being and a mum. And taking it down to just 3 that were really important, rather than 103 that were diluted, was the place that allowed me to really start to make progress, to make decisions. And so as we come to the end of today's show, I would invite you to take a moment of pause as this year ends and to really reflect on, what are your takeaways? What are you proudest of? What have been your greatest lessons? And how are you going to take those 2, the things that you're proud of and the lessons that you learned getting there, to shape next year with intention? When we're here again in a year's time, then we can have a look at, what did you do? How did you live up against that intention? How did you move forward against where you were going? Because one of the things that I learned a long time ago is I was running away from what I didn't want instead of running towards what I did. And so we're going to just share briefly before I go, some of the things that I'm proudest of this year has been the launch of my children's book. It's been my first ever children's book, and I've been blown away by how kind people have been. But the reason I share this is I started writing children's books when I was 7, and I'm 52. So that's 45 years in the making. And that was because I told myself it wasn't for me. That's not what I can do. That's not where I fit. And the reason this book got wrote was because I wrote it for my little girl. It was only ever supposed to go for her until somebody else read it and said it needed to go further. And I share that with you because if you've got a dream inside you that you've been telling yourself you can't do, I invite you to lean into it and see how that can shape your future. Because my reflection is that I spent years telling myself I couldn't do this until the reason for doing it became significantly more important. My reason for doing it, to help my little girl through a particular day, was more important than my ability to do it. And once that happened, it went out into the world, and I realized I could do it. So as I sign off, I would like to say that anybody listening and watching, if this resonates, then please take my invitation to spend a bit of time being curious about the year you've just had and being intentional about the year ahead. And until next time, take care.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Which of these 5 statements sounds mostly like you? 1. I often wake up in the middle of the night worrying about my future. 2. I'm angry or resentful towards a specific person. 3. I have anxious, obsessive, compulsive thoughts throughout the day. 4. I have an addiction like smoking, drinking, shopping, sugar, or social media. And 5. I feel that I'm wasting away my life. Hello, I'm Dr. Alkistis Agio, and for over 25 years, I've been coaching and training people from all over the world to transform their fears, insecurities, anxiety, and anger into mental and emotional freedom. I'm confident that my simple 3-step method based on Greek philosophy can help you to transform into the joyful, confident, free human being that you deserve to be. I want to invite you to join my weekly online coaching group to finally get the results that you want. Look, you've tried it alone so far and you've had some okay results, but let's face it, you're still feeling stuck right now, spinning your wheels. Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Now, unless you realize this as a fact, that you are a prisoner of your own mind, you can't move forward. I'm here to support you, as well as the whole community that we are co-creating. Stop feeling stuck. Stop feeling depressed. You don't have to do it alone, and alone isn't working anyway. Sign up today and I'll meet you on the inside of our amazing weekly group call. I guarantee that you'll make progress from the very first session.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.